Welcome to the Bible in Plain Sight. My name is Carol Evans, and I am thrilled to bring you part 2 today of Mia's journey to America. So she's been joining us in just 1 minute. I'm going to go ahead and invite her to join. Okay, Mia, come on. There we go. Okay, the acceptance should be coming in now, Mia, if you're watching this. There you go. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Are you driving to work this morning?
Well, I'm actually trying to find a parking space because I'm stuck
No.
in traffic and
Oh
I'm on
no.
Tazewell. So
Oh.
I need to get off Tazewell to be able to find a parking space. So, yay.
Yeah. Tazewell this time of the morning right before 8
Yes.
is not a fun place to be.
Yes. Yeah.
No, it is not a fun place to be. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit, speaking of work and on the way to work, we're going to talk a little bit about your work journey and your journey, just how someone from another country even has to go through that process of finding a job, what you did through that whole thing. And so, anyway, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that. We've talked about that. And I remember in the early days we worked together, you were going through a lot of that process of your immigration status and all of that. And there was so much more to it than I realized at the time. And so all that kind of is all connected. So anyway, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that. But I know you, when you came to the States, you really didn't know a lot of English at the time, though. Is that correct? You knew some, but
Not
not a lot.
enough. Not enough to carry a conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I knew just basic words, but
Yeah.
definitely not to get a job or get my driving license. And that was actually
Yeah.
really hard for me because in Romania, I only walked or used a bicycle, or
Mm-hmm.
very rarely I even sit in the front seat of a car. So when I came here, that entire process, it was very nerve-wracking. And also,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I can pass that test, you know?
Yeah.
But
It's hard.
yeah, the first 6 months, it was really, really hard. I started taking classes online to be able to know enough English to go get my driving license test.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely
But you didn't drive in Romania, though, right?
no, no. Remember, for a while, and I think I told you that story, that I wish somebody would have corrected me earlier. I used the, I still don't know the difference between the two words. Hitchhike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
remember the first time when I came, I didn't know the difference between hitchhike and hijack. And I told
Oh, no.
somebody, like, how are you good getting along from one place to the other? I said, I used to hijack. So it took me a few years here in the States to actually learn that that's not the same word,
Yeah,
hijack
no.
and hitchhike.
Yeah, hijack is more
Yeah,
like you stole the car.
yeah, which
Yeah.
which I didn't. So, but the words are so similar. There's a
They
lot of words
are.
here in America that I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But
I never thought about that, though, until you started pointing that out. I never thought about hitchhike and hijack, but they're very similar.
they're
Like if you
very
just think about,
similar,
yeah,
and especially for somebody who is trying to learn English.
yeah,
It was definitely not an easy journey. I
no.
actually came to the States on the 26th of May,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I finally found a parking space.
Oh, good. It was making me so nervous. I'm like, oh, because I could tell by the road where you were, and I was getting so nervous.
Hey, right by a rent house, so just in case I need a
Oh,
coffee after. Yeah.
perfect. Nice.
Um, so, and then I went to get my driving license in February. I got my driving
Mm-hmm.
license February 2009.
Mm-hmm.
The 20 27th, and I start my first day of work February 28th. It's
Wow.
like I do them all in groups. When big things
Mm-hmm.
happen, it's all at once. No.
Yeah.
Um, but for
Yeah.
the job, you were asking how I got a job. In Romania, I've always worked with the kids. That's all
Yeah.
I knew. So when I came here, I started going to Sevier Heights. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody said, hey, if you want to help with the kiddos. And I said, sure. Well, I realized really, really fast that it's different.
Mm-hmm.
The rules. And I worked for about 6 months there, not officially hired, but I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, yeah, it's a different world, completely different
Yeah.
world. And the rules I remember I told Rob, I think I'm going to get in trouble if I become a teacher. Just because,
Like, give me an example of one rule that was different.
for example, I was not allowed to put the kid in the corner, or I was
Oh.
not allowed, like the first time was like a 3-year-old needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't know that you have to leave the door open. Normal
Oh,
stuff like
yeah.
here, it's normal, you know.
Yeah.
But it came from, so what, 3-year-old needs to go to the bathroom, take him to the bathroom. It's not as
Yeah.
simple here, which it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. You have to
Yeah.
keep in mind to make sure the kid is okay, then they're
Mm-hmm.
protected.
Yeah.
But it's a different world when it comes to that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in Romania, people were more trust, no, more trusted. No, that's not the right word. Like there were a lot of relatives, and everybody trusted everybody
Yeah.
to take care of your child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here, everything is to such a bigger scale than what I was used to. That I was like, I don't know if teaching is what I
It's
need
very
to
different.
continue
Mm-hmm.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. And because I was trying to learn English so fast, Robert said, hey, you know what? There's a friend of his girlfriend was working for Cellular Cells. I said, how about you just go
Mm-hmm.
there and just interview just to get practice? And I was like, a cell phone
Yeah.
company? Yeah, no, thank you. But I said, you know what? I need practice. What does it take? I just got to
Yeah.
go in there. And I went to my first interview, and I remember I was so nervous. I
Mm-hmm.
could barely find my words. I could barely speak English. And the manager at the time, she said, "You know what? It's gonna be okay. Just learn a little bit more English, and then you come back and you interview again. But hey, you did good for the
Mm-hmm.
first time." And I was walking out, and the director at that time walked in. I said, what's going on?" I said, "Well, she interviewed, but she's gonna come back after she's gonna learn more English." And he took her phone and he said, how about you take this phone and call this number? And I thought it was weird. And he walked outside and he got me to call him on her phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he started asking me questions, like interviewing questions. And after a
Mm-hmm.
few minutes, he came back in and he said, you know what? She's good. She's going to continue to learn with us. Hire her. And I was surprised because I was literally just trying to get
Yeah.
practice. And I
Yeah.
knew that was God using those
Mm-hmm.
people. Like Lyle Harris was the one who
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, she's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. He
Yeah.
was using them to create a path for me to be able to learn English faster
Yeah.
because I would have never learned as fast as I did if I didn't have that environment.
Yeah.
And I know I was telling you, a sweet, sweet lady, Betty Pike, she took me under her wing and she said, you know what? You don't worry about a thing. You just sit here in the cubicle with me. I'll walk you every step of the way through the process. And she gave me some scripts that I need to read. And I remember that she said, you know what? Just record yourself and listen to them. And I got home and I was reading off the script. And then I tried to listen to recording. And I was like, I don't understand the word this woman is saying, which it was me. And I couldn't understand what I was saying. I said, what am I trying to
Yeah.
say? And I was just reading the script. So what I did, I memorized all the scripts that we have, and I was practicing in the
Mm-hmm.
mirror, to open my mouth and, try
Mm-hmm.
to accentuate better.
Yeah.
But that was the way I actually learn how to do my
Hmm.
day-to-day task.
Yeah.
Everything was memorized. And if they ask a different
Hmm.
question, I had Betty beside me to say, hey, can you help me through this?
Yeah.
And I will always be grateful that they took a chance on me. I mean, now 15 years later,
Hmm.
I'm with the same company,
Yeah.
but from somebody who sits on the other side and I do interviews now, I'm
Hmm.
thinking, would I hired myself at that time?
Yeah.
Probably not. And I'm thinking now, I mean, with all honesty, I was like, I was not, I did not knew English enough.
Yeah.
Um, but that helps me to try to think a little bit harder and give grace because
Hmm.
as I
Yeah.
didn't know I was not fluent in English,
Hmm.
that put a fire under me to want to learn faster and not to disappoint them. They
Yeah.
took a chance on me and they
Yeah.
gave me that shot that other companies might have not.
Hmm.
And they set me up with the mentor. They didn't have to do that. They
Yeah.
didn't have to do that, and yet they did, and I will forever be grateful for that.
Hmm.
That they took a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some things that can get lost in translation with like American work culture or American corporate culture that maybe you thought it had one meaning, but really it had a different meaning? Can you think of anything like early on in your days at Sailor Sales when maybe um, there was some things that were just lost in translation of maybe someone said this and so you went and did this, but maybe it was just interpreted differently?
You mean between hijack and hitchhike?
Yes, just like that.
Oh wow! Somebody pointed out very early on,
Mhm.
Nate Lawrence. He pointed
Mhm.
out
Yes.
recently that very early on he heard me say some words that were not appropriate. And I didn't know. I was like, what did I say? Well, I didn't know what was a cuss word and what was
Right.
not. And if I was
Yeah.
surrounded by people who were using that language, I picked it up and I didn't know what he
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was in a meeting with manager and he happened to be there and I said something that I was frustrated, but I used a different word and he immediately looked and he did like, do you know what that means? That I'm mad? Not quite. So I
Nope.
got home and I asked Robert, it's like, yeah, don't use that word. I was like, oh. And that happened more than once. I was on the phone
Yeah.
once and somebody called me a name.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally did not know what he meant because, you know, I,
Mm.
I really did.
Yeah.
Because, many we don't have that.
Yeah.
And I said it out
Yeah.
loud, hey, what does this word mean? And the manager at the time pulled me aside and was like, yeah, I have to write you up for that. I said, but what did I
Oh
say?
no.
What did I?
You didn't
Well,
even
I can't even say it's
know.
so bad. And I was like, but I need to know so I wouldn't say it again. But again, I was
Yeah.
repeating what somebody called me on
You
the
didn't know.
phone. Yeah. And I got home and
Mm-hmm.
Rob was like, yeah, no, don't say that again. I was like, oh, would somebody explain what it is? So I had to do the research on my own to figure out what some of the words mean because yeah, you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And there are people that set you up for it intentionally because they think it's
Yes.
funny. It's like, hey, say this.
Yeah.
This means that. And you say it, and then they just laugh and say, why are they laughing? You know,
Yeah.
and unless now, I'm surrounded by people that I trust. So
Mm-hmm.
it's different now because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
the joke of the group. I can do my own
Yeah.
research now as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, thinking back to like the early days of when I first met you, your English was always really good. I never knew how hard you worked to speak English because to me your English was good. And so I knew you had an accent. I knew you're from Romania because we talked about your family. We talked about how you and Robert met. And so I just never knew how hard of a journey that you went on to speak English. And so sometimes you would say things, and I would think it was like adorable,
Hilarious.
you know? No, well, hilarious, but I also thought it was adorable, but it was probably not the best reaction that I could have had because I loved it, but I didn't mean to be offensive, but it probably wasn't the best reaction. But I remember one time we were in a meeting and we were in the back of the room, and me and
Jesse.
another person were, so just, we were sitting in the back, and you were talking about an event, and you were talking about how much it made thousands and thousands of dollars. And this, you were trying to tell us the seriousness of this event, but you said thousands, and the way you said it, we were like, oh my word, that's so cute. And so then we kept asking questions to see if you could say the word again, and then you caught on to us real quick, and you totally got on to us like some school children in the back of a classroom, and we felt terrible after that, but it, we enjoyed ourselves for the first couple
Yeah.
times, and then you caught on to
I
us.
remember that time I didn't have a pointer. I couldn't find the pointer to, and I ended up getting a hanger, and I was pointing with it, and I pointed towards you,
Yeah,
and Jason's like, "What are you guys laughing about?" or
yeah,
something
like,
like that.
it's
And you,
something funny in the back
yeah,
row. We were like, no, no, nothing's funny in the back row.
and now I see when you say I used to be intimidating, people don't realize that I wasn't intimidating because I was trying to be intimidating. I was trying so hard in my
Hmm.
mind to translate from Romania to English.
Yeah.
And even though if I'm hungry or if I'm tired or
Hmm.
um, if sometime I ask the question, it takes me longer to
Hmm.
process it because after 15
Yeah.
years, people would think that, my brain will just start thinking directly in English. Well, that's not the case all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was getting frustrated because you guys were laughing, and I mean, that was a serious class. I was trying to give
You were
numbers,
serious.
and I was trying, uh, and you were just giggling. It's like, really? But it took me I can see why I came across like I was just military structure. I was trying to translate in my mind, and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Isaac laughs to this day if I say thousands. I still cannot say. I
But
think I say it
I
right.
know.
I think,
No.
but it sounds right in my mind, my head. But I know.
Yeah. But you mentioned that how you have to translate in your mind from one language to another. So, and in the beginning, that must have taken quite a long time to do that. So, like, you do that pretty quickly
Um,
now.
I do it faster. I remember I shared with you like that somebody at work, I heard them, they were talking in the kitchen about me. I went to go to the restroom and they were there, and he said, "Hey, what's wrong with that girl? Is she?" And they used the R word.
Hmm.
I said, "What is wrong with her? She just the way she speaks, the way." And I went back to my desk, forget about going to the bathroom. I was like, "Is that what people think about me?" Because I was
Hmm.
speaking a little slower. I
Hmm.
was, taking my time, and in their mind, they immediately label me that is something wrong with you. You shouldn't do it regardless. But there were a lot of
Yeah.
times like that I feel like as a foreigner you get mislabeled or misunderstood
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
and again I'm saying again I'm not saying this I'm not a victim in any way. That's simply my
Yeah.
experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that makes me really sad to think that anyone would look at someone that's not just like them, and would assume that there's something about them that makes them valued less or makes them labeled in a negative way. That just makes me really sad. That makes my heart sad. So if someone is watching this and they work with someone that is that has an accent or was not born in this country, maybe they were born in this country. I've got a lot of friends who were born in America, but that doesn't mean that their culture is American. A lot of them they're in a subculture that's not American, and so um, what would you say if someone has someone that they work with? How can they make them feel welcome in a workplace, and how can they make them feel um, just to be kind of the hands
Yeah.
and feet of Jesus to them? How can they practically do that in a work
Show a
environment?
little grace. Show a little grace.
Hmm.
And you have to understand just because somebody speaks a certain way or walks or
Hmm.
eats or that doesn't necessarily
Hmm.
needs to be made a joke out of it every time
Hmm.
because and
Yeah.
I know that the jokes that they were told to me they were not intentionally to hurt. I know
Hmm.
they were not with evil intentions.
Yeah.
But sometimes even those words, like, they do hurt, because people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize when everybody goes home and eat as a family. I was going home by myself, and what I was doing, just, not have family around, not have anybody, just study. That's all I knew what to do. And just bury myself
Yeah.
in books, bury myself in, because I
Yeah.
said, if I could be this way, maybe people wouldn't make jokes about this. Or if I carry
Mm-hmm.
myself this way, maybe, they will accept me as their own. And I realized that for the longest time, I was fighting so hard to just
Mm-hmm.
be accepted, that I kind of lost my identity. I lost who I was,
Yeah.
just because the only thing I was trying to fight for, I said, if I could only reach this status right here, then maybe they'll look at me different. And again, this is
Mm.
simply my
Yeah.
my story. I know
Mm-hmm.
I shared with you once that one of the first time I was invited to a party here,
Mm-hmm.
um, Robert dropped me off, and I was just so excited. I
Mm-hmm.
said, "This is it. This is my time. I'm gonna make some friends. And I was so excited. And I went to get some punch. That was the first time I actually drank punch. I was like, man, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um, there were a lot of people talking around, and I said, I need to make an effort in trying to be friendly,
Mm-hmm.
and, because they were trusted friends of Robert. So I was like, I need to, play that part, that I'm his
Mm-hmm.
wife. And I was getting some punch, and a gentleman came and started a conversation with me. And as soon as I respond, uh, he stopped and he was like, "Oh, oh, you're not from here." I said, "No, no, I'm not. I'm from Romania." I was proud. I was from Romania. I
Yeah.
said, "Oh,
Yeah.
you give me that vibe that you shouldn't be here. Maybe you should be in the kitchen serving the rest of us." And I was like, I didn't know how to respond. So I took my glass of punch, and I was trying to find tears, and I was like, what did I say? So I went to the restroom, tried to get it together, and then I walked in the kitchen. And the kitchen was full of the sweetest lady. As soon as they saw, they embraced me. I said, hey, what can I help? Can I help with something? And I realized, yes, I did feel more comfortable in the background. Yes, I did feel more comfortable in the kitchen. So I decided to stay. Well, at some point, the lady said, hey, sweetie, would you take some of this? I think it was some, I don't know. She asked me to take something in the kitchen. I said, it would be my pleasure to take it where the party was. So when I walked out, the same gentleman was with a group of people. I was a little bit older. He was maybe late 50s or 60, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a group of people, and he was like, "There you go. That's what I'm talking about." And I immediately felt like I was
Oh.
stereotyped, and that's because I
Yeah.
spoke a different. I mean, I spoke English, but I had a different accent. And even when we
Yeah.
think like those are funny jokes, you don't know what the
Mm-mm.
person's been through. You don't know their
Yeah.
past. You don't know their journey. And I'll say,
Mm.
have a little bit more grace. Unless you're really
Yeah.
close to them and unless you know their story, have a little
Yeah.
bit compassion and
Yeah.
grace, because you just don't know how hard they work or their journey for them
Mm-hmm.
to be where
Yeah.
they're at today. That was
Yeah.
a long answer
Yeah.
for.
No, that was a really good answer. That just makes my heart sad that you were there and someone had an opportunity to welcome you and to make you feel at home and to introduce you to people and they didn't do that. And um so that makes me really sad. But thank you for sharing that because I hope that that inspires someone else when they see someone by themselves or they see someone or they hear someone talk. I hope that inspires them to go over and say, hi, my name is. And they just say, have you met so and so over here? And they walk over and they start introducing them to people and they say, have you tried any of these foods? Do you want to get a plate? Do you want to sit with me? Like, I hope that inspires someone to go over and talk to that person that maybe they don't know if they know anybody else there and they don't know that. So that, thank you for sharing that.
I tried to apply over the weekend what I've learned from you. You shared last time when you
Mhm,
said, "Hey,
mhm,
you just approached the lady and said, I'm happy you're here."
mhm,
And I actually tried to um, do that over the weekend,
Hmm.
and I was proud of myself. Usually I don't do that, just approach random people. And I saw a lady had an accent, and I got started the conversation. I was like, I need to do a better job about modeling that, and not because someone said, "Do you have
Hmm.
Romanian friends? Are you hang out with them?" No, no, I do, but not here in the States.
Hmm.
But I need to do, because I did experience that and I've been through that. I need to do a better job
Hmm.
about helping people feel
Hmm.
welcome, because again, you don't
Yeah.
know the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mia, thank you so much for sharing today. Um, and with the one last question I want to ask is, I remember at work you were going through a big process to become a U.S. citizen, and there was all these tests you had to take. Can you just tell us really quickly what all you went through to do that? Because I remember you studying for it, like you studied like crazy,
Mhm.
but you had to go somewhere
Yeah.
to officially there was a lot of. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that process is like?
So when I first came, I came to the state in 2008. I came as a fiance visa, and I had 90 days
Hmm.
to start my paperwork into getting my green card. And the green card, the only thing it is, it helps you get a driving license and get a job.
Hmm.
So every 6 months, I had to travel to Nashville for them to get my biometrics, like get my fingerprints, put me in the system, make sure that I'm doing it the
Hmm.
right way. And I had to fill out a form like every few months. Felt like it was another form we needed to fill and send it to Nashville or Memphis
Hmm.
or the process altogether took 40 years. So I became
Four.
40 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I became a citizen in 2012. But for that, when to take your citizenship test, yes, it was a book about this thick. It was huge. But also, I bought flashcards, and every night I was just, studying like history, geography, like politics, and like it was a lot. A part of me, I want to go back and go through that book again, because I remember the knowledge and how
Hmm.
confident I was to know how much information I knew. I felt like I was
Yeah.
part of this
Yeah.
great nation. I felt like, hey, I can contribute now. I have that knowledge. So part of me want to go back and actually
Hmm.
go through the book to study a little bit, but it was a 4-year process, and I had to travel to Memphis to take my test. It's like a written test, and um, also they're asking you questions. Um,
Yeah.
and then I became a citizen in Greenville, Tennessee. So, but it was a 40-year
Nice.
process. Yeah.
Wow. That seems like a long time. So
Hmm.
when you see someone working where you work, sometimes we assume they can do certain things. So after you fully became a citizen, you could not vote until you
True,
became a citizen, though. Is that right?
true. I
So
could
you
not
could
vote.
work and
Yes, I
drive.
could work, I could drive, but I could
Hmm.
not have own a gun, or I could not vote. Those were the two
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a long
Yeah.
journey, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. The only thing, if I could take back, a lot of people don't know that. Um, I didn't had an attorney. We just did the paperwork
Mm.
by ourselves,
Yeah.
and I ended up losing my citizenship in Romania because the paperwork I submitted. So
Oh
that's something
no.
that I wish somebody would sit down and explain to me, because
Mm.
when Robert passed in 2015, I said, there's nothing here for me. I want to go home to my family. And I tried to go
Hmm.
home, and they say, you're not a citizen. You can only be here 3 months at a time, and you have to apply for a visa. Well, I wish somebody would talk to me prior to that, how to do
Yeah.
the
Because you
proper paperwork. But
could have done dual citizenship.
yes, yes. So I can have dual citizenship. Well, I never
Hmm.
knew that was a thing, so I just
Yeah.
submitted paper, and that's why I was not able to move back home. But
I didn't know
now
that.
this is home.
I didn't know that.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, Mia, I will let you go. I know you've got to get to work, but thank you for sharing today. Um, just parts of your story and
Thank
parts of
you.
your path and what led you here. God has just worked in your life in such an amazing way. And I love that you can just shoot that back to Him every time. Like you constantly do that with throughout your life and throughout your story. Um, so it's an honor to be your friend.
Well,
And I'm just so thankful to get to kind of have a bit of a front row seat to your journey. And I'm very thankful for
thank you,
you.
Carol. Thank you for allowing me to
Hmm.
share. Have a
Awesome. Okay, we will come back next week for our final part of Mia's story. And we will see you all next week. Thank you, Mia. Love
good
you.
day. Love you. Bye.
Bye.